guys, and welcome back to As a Man Thinketh 2019.
Day two.
Day two, yeah. We're off.
We are in Roddy's favorite chapter. Now, this is...
We certainly are.
This is perhaps...
And you're going to see why.
Well, this is the biggest chapter, the largest chapter in the book, I think.
It's not, but it is in terms of content and thought and circumstances the longest. But there's more kind of repetition because it takes more time to try and convince you of the link between thought and circumstance. But I think this is where the meat is.
I know this is... So there's so much for us that we are absolutely going to do this chapter in at least two parts. Because if you go in your study guide... on page 24, there's a diagram that we're going to spend probably 30 or 40 minutes with. So we probably won't get to that piece today.
Maybe we'll do that tomorrow.
And that's probably going to be a standalone video. So you can think that we're going to camp out on this chapter for at least 2 days. So day 2 and day 3 for sure. And you can also think that and know that we're not going to cover it all. We could do 10 days.
Yes, true.
No, we could. Yeah, we could do 10 days on this chapter. There's a couple of things that I do want, and so what we're going to do is Roddy and I are each going to kind of hit some high parts for us and just share some insights to help you really discover, right? Because the whole purpose that he said in the foreword is for men and women to be stimulated enough to the point where you begin to discover the truths of your being for yourself, that you begin to discover that you yourself are the maker of yourself. So let's just jump in on page. I want to take you to page 19. Then I want you to go to page 23. So we're on line 12. He says the aphorism, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," not only embraces the whole of a man's being, but is so comprehensive as to reach out to every condition and every circumstance of his life. He says, a man is literally what he thinks, his character being the sum of all his thoughts. And I think the word "is" there is really critical, because I think for many times, for probably the better part of the first couple of years, is I was thinking, that man creates whatever he thinks, right? That as a man thinketh, so is he. I still wasn't really understanding that. I was thinking that, okay, if I think happy thoughts or happy things, if I think about, growing my business, I grow my business, that I'm a creative being. And I was thinking of it in the outside world. And he's saying here, man is literally what he thinks. It's an inner game. It's who you are. It's in your becoming. And so there's a different level of understanding that he wants you to understand and become aware of and discover in the creative process of who you are, and in the creative process of how you co-create your life. And it starts with your beingness. Man is literally what he thinks. Literally. So that is why, being specific is so important. Let's jump over to page 23 for a moment. And he says, again, Roddy and I have been talking about this idea that, this book is about self-inventory. And it's one of the reasons why we decided to not only give you kind of the text of the book, but to create a workbook for you and to have reflective questions for you to begin to take inventory of yourself, right? And for you to really dive deep into the book and study it. He says, only by much searching and mining are gold and diamonds attained. And man can find every truth connected with his being if he will dig deep into the mine of his soul. So, oftentimes when we are looking to solve problems in our life, when our business is struggling, when there's something wrong in our relationships or our marriage, we begin to look outward. I know, right. Like, again, for business, And again, many people don't look at this book as a business book. This is a business book, and when my business was struggling, I did what most people do. First thing is I blamed everybody else. The second thing is I started to ask other people their opinion. What should I do? And everybody was telling me what I should change in the outside world. I should change my marketing. I should change the way I'm paying my employees. I should change the process. I should change all these outside things. And Patrick was saying, no. It's not about changing the outside thing. It's about you changing inwardly. And that's what he's saying here. He's saying man can find every truth connected with his being if he'll dig deep into the mind of his soul, not the outside conditions and circumstances. He says, and that he is the maker of his character. See, I never realized that I was the maker of my character. I just thought that this, I believe these things because this is the way I believe, right? That's just kind of the way it is. Never realizing, for those of you who've studied with Roddy and I before, I have a vignette when I teach where I say, for most of my life, I thought I just had to play the cards you're dealt. I mean, we're taught that. That is a metaphor, Hey, look, you just got to play the cards you're dealt. That's just the way it is. And it never occurs to us that we can take the cards we're dealt and demand from life a new hand. And so, we are the maker of our character. And think about, what your character is. And regardless of, so many people will blame their character flaws on their upbringing or, things that happened to them in their childhood or the way someone else behaved. And, we operate at this lower level of awareness, see what you made me do. You made me mad. You upset me. And we take on these characters because we're a victim of circumstance. We're a victim of outside things. And, of course, a person who grows up in an abusive family, of course they're going to be abusive. No, not necessarily. You can choose your character. And that's what he's saying here is that you're the maker of character, the molder of his life, the builder of his destiny. And he may unerringly prove, if he will, and notice what he says here. Watch, control, and alter his thoughts. Watch, that's enter into observational thinking. Watch what you're doing. Like, sit back and observe your life for a moment. Sit back and kind of replay the day and watch and say, Was that the right response? I mean, how many times have you sent an email where you wish you could just claw that one back, or you've had a conversation? So he's saying he's giving you here a process. Watch, and then control, and control. If we think about control, he's talking here about self-control. He's not talking about me controlling other people or me trying to control the conditions or circumstances. And if we understand, control, if we think again, the meaning of the word in the context in which he's talking about, if we're going to exercise control, that requires a level of discipline. Discipline is like one of the highest levels of conscious awareness there is. Discipline is our ability to give ourselves a command and then to follow through with it. So we're to observe, we're to enter into this, we're to kind of observe our lives, we're to exercise control. And then when we see that, we are creating something that, isn't what we want. Notice what he tells us, we alter our thoughts. What most people do is we try to change our behavior. And he's saying, no, don't. It's not about behavioral change. It's not about behavioral modification. It's about altering your thought, because the thought precedes the action. So he says, you watch, you control, you alter your thoughts, tracing their effects upon himself, upon others, upon his life and circumstances, linking cause and effect by patient practice and investigation, and utilizing his every experience, even the most trivial everyday occurrence, as a means of obtaining that knowledge of himself, which is understanding, wisdom, and power. In this direction, as in no other, is the law absolute. He that seeketh findeth. To him that knocketh it shall be opened. For only by patience, practice, and ceaseless importunity can a man enter the door of the temple of knowledge. This is so powerful, because I think what he's giving you in this, just on page 23, from 71 to 86, I think what he's telling you is what he mentioned in the foreword, where he said on line 2, it's suggestive. I think he's giving you the suggestive process of how we look at this.
I love the way it's every scrap of life as well, isn't it? Because he says every experience, even to the most trivial, linking cause and effect by patient practice and investigation, and utilizing every experience, even the most trivial everyday occurrence, as a means of obtaining knowledge. So you don't need to wait for major events, although they can be helpful.
We don't have to wait for everything to be right. We don't have to wait for the perfect, conditions and circumstances. So many times we often think that, only these big things matter. So Roddy and I will teach, we have a kind of a teaching that says, the answer to the question of what matters is everything, and the answer to the question of who matters is everyone.
Yeah.
And how many times have you heard, kind of I guess it's kind of urban legend, but it's true where they say a business leader is taking a junior associate kind of out to lunch or out to dinner for the big promotion. But he's going to watch, or she's going to watch, how the junior associate interacts with the waiter or waitress, right? And see how they treat, the common person.
Yeah.
Right? And they make or break the deal because of how they treated. That's true. And, Yeah. And so everything matters. Every interaction, even the most trivial everyday occurrence, there's a lesson there. There's something for us to learn there. There's something for us to learn about ourselves. And how do we learn it? Well, we watch, we observe, we be disciplined. We be willing to kind of alter our thoughts. So it's not where we're trying to force our will on other people. We recognize that if we want to change the conditions and circumstances, we start with ourselves. And he's talking here about not just changing our thoughts about the creative side of thinking. He's talking in this chapter, talking about starting with the character of who we are.
Yeah,
which is really powerful.
Talking about character, somewhat, just as you were saying that, I realized I went for a job years ago, a job interview, and the lady came down to collect me from the reception to go up, and we were kind of chatting on the way up, and she was pretending to be a secretary, but she was the manager for the department. And so she came down, and there was 3 of us going for the job, and it was just as like a hardware engineer. It was just like starting. And in the lift, I was just chatting with her, saying, "What do you do then?" And she kind of let slip that she was a manager, which didn't matter too much because I wasn't talking down to her like she was a secretary anyway. But the other 2, they did, and they did miles better than me on the practical test. But they said we don't like the way that they
their character.
And so I got the job.
Yeah, well, I mean,
character matters. Doesn't
it does. I mean, how many times have we heard, you hire the person, train the skill.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? You hire the character. Right?
Don't hire people and then train them to be nice. Hire nice people and train them to do what you want to do. Right. It's so true.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
so true.
That's a great paragraph. I want to go back to the beginning a little bit,
absolutely.
if you don't, because there's something in here.
Well, there's so much.
But on line 74, you read out, he is the maker of his character. So he's the maker.
Line 74, you you said?
Of you were just reading,
yeah. Okay, yeah.
So this is what takes me back to the beginning.
Okay.
He is the maker of his character, the moulder of his life, and the builder of his destiny. And if we're saying that he's choosing words very deliberately here, we make our character, we mould our life. So moulding is kind of out of what's already there, isn't it?
That's right.
And building our destiny. Mm-hmm. So I think they're important. And if you go to line 27 on page 20 at the beginning, this little poem, thought in the mind hath made us, what we are by thought we wrought and built. So wrought, I think, is a really interesting word there, because wrought is kind of hammering out, and wrought iron is a kind of iron that you heat up and you hammer like a blacksmith. So, from his age, the era that he's alive, that would have been a part of everyday life. And I remember my granddad used to work for the Queen and drive the Queen when he was younger as a coachman. And then when he retired, he went and lived in the Royal Mews and would clean the carriages and clean up after the horses. So when my sister and I went to stay with my granddad at the weekends, we would go and climb in and out of all the carriages, and we'd want to go and see the blacksmith at work.
Sure.
And he would have, many of you have seen it, I'm sure. And they're putting it in, heating it up, and then hammering and hammering and hammering and shaping this piece of iron and hammering it into the right shape, and then trying it against the horse's hoof, and then hammering it a bit more, and then putting it in the water and putting it on. And so it's kind of wrought, it's hammered into shape by the blows of the hammer. And he's saying here that our character is wrought and built. What we are by thought, we've wrought and built. And just think about that. So by thought, our character is being molded. What we are, our character is being molded by thought. So thought is this process, but it's not. I used to think that thought was the hammer, but I think thought is part of the hammer. Thought is the charge, but it's experience, because you have to put it into experience, and we're kind of shaped by life, aren't we? So it's the two together. So what we are, we're shaped by thought in the world, lived out in the world.
And it's not just our thought on the big things.
Right. It's everything.
It's everything. It's the trivial thing. You are always creating.
Yeah.
Right? You're always creating. You're always becoming something.
Always stitching, but each stitch follows what was there before.
That's right.
So that's why I like this molding. You're kind of shaping your character
from what's there.
Right.
Right. But you can choose it any moment in time,
change direction, build anew, or go in a different direction.
Right.
And often that kind of character is forged in the furnace of failure, isn't it? It's the failure that gives the most shaping blows to change the way that we go.
And think about how we are so attached to trying to avoid failure, which then
stay the same shape.
Yeah, it retards our growth. It prevents us from truly learning the lessons that we need to learning that how many times have we said well, it builds character. When we fell, it builds character. There's truth in that. It does build character. And that character leads to growth. Absolutely.
Yeah, more and more. You think now of all the success you've enjoyed at this point in your life, and you could easy to sort of say that you stand on top of a mountain of successes, but actually
it's a mountain.
You think of all the failures you've had as well.
Lots of them.
It's a mountain of failures.
Many more failures than I did successes, but failure is success's constant companion.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about it. And we don't realize the inner game. I'm very much into sales. I love sales. I've been in sales all my life, and I have done sales in person, and I have done sales over the phone. And in person, I know that literally I have 1/24th of a second to make a first impression. Over the phone, I've got about 4 seconds. And what the person is really reading in my tonality over the phone in those first 4 seconds, what they're reading in the first blink of an eye, Gladwell wrote, the book Blink, in the blink of an eye, what they're really judging is really my character. They're trying to get a read on my character.
Yeah.
And what the subconscious, what they're trying to do in their conscious mind is they're asking, do I trust this person? Do I trust this person can I rely on this person? Is this person dependable? Is this person believable? All of those are things of character.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
They're not evaluating, is this person's product good? Is this person's service going to be good? Are they competent? The very first thing we do when we meet someone, when we're sizing them up, and we all do it, is we're judging their we're looking
consciously and unconsciously, subconsciously.
Character.
It happens automatically, doesn't it? Yeah. How do I feel about this person?
Yeah.
And are they integrous, and are they my kind of people? Or
about their character.
Yeah.
Not about, are they, is this a good lawyer? Is this going to be a good accountant? Is this going to be a good speaker for our event? Is this going to be the right coach? Is this going to be the right receptionist? Is this going to be the right baker, butcher, candlestick maker? It doesn't matter. What we're always doing when we're meeting someone is, in the very first interaction with a human being, is we're judging their character.
Yeah.
Because it matters. And so if you think about that, if everybody who meets you, and everybody who interacts with you is drawing a conclusion about who you are based on their perception of your character. And then they're going to make decisions whether they're going to do business with you or not do business with you, give you an introduction, not give you an introduction, be a reference for you, not be a reference for you. Then, of course, your character shapes your life.
Right, yeah.
Because
that's the way it plays out.
That's the way it plays. Well, try getting along in, I love it when people say, well, I don't need anybody. Yeah. Sure. We absolutely need other people.
Everything is with and through others, isn't it?
I love when people say, well, I don't care what other people think of me. You better care what other people.
Yeah.
I absolutely, look, I care a lot about what you think of me on this program. I care a lot about what people think of me. Now there's a good check and balance of that, right? In how that is. But ultimately, when we think about what people think of me, it's really about what they think of my character.
Right.
It is all we have, and we would defend our reputation. I mean, that's a big thing, and it's one of I think the biggest dangers to our young people right now is, our young people don't realize that in the digital age, when they're 7, 8, 10, 14, or 15 years old, and they do the stupid things that we all have done, it's memorialized forever, digitally.
Right.
And how many times have we seen, a young person come out of college and go for a job interview, and they go back to their MySpace page, which was years ago, or their Facebook page, or some tweet, and they say, 10 years ago this happened. And what they're looking at is their character, right? Their behavior and what that character is. And it matters what people think of you, and what they're thinking of us and summing us up is our character. So character really is a big deal.
It's everything, isn't it? Like we said, it's the inner game. It's the game.
And we do make and mold ourselves by our character, and we can choose our character.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I grew up in a single family home. My father left my mom when she was 3 months pregnant with me. And we grew up very poor. We grew up in struggle, and my mom was really physically, verbally, emotionally abusive, and I could use that as an excuse for me to have character flaws, or and the only thing worse than an excuse is a good excuse.
Right.
And many people do allow their past conditions or circumstances, or even their current conditions or circumstance, to be a scapegoat for their character. Yeah. And I think one of the things...
And no one would blame you, but it wouldn't change your results.
Absolutely. And I think what he's saying here in this book is that the purpose of this book is for you to discover that you're the maker of yourself.
Yeah.
You may not be at fault, but you are now responsible.
Yeah.
And there's a responsibility, I think, that he's calling us forward and directly to the sentence where you're at, wrought by our own thought.
Yeah.
Who controls ultimately what you think?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, because it's not just the experiences, is it? It's how you perceive the experiences and then how you use them to grow or to shape future character. I think Earl Nightingale had the example in one of his programs about two twins, and they had an alcoholic father, and one of them was an alcoholic and one wasn't. And when asked, the one who wasn't an alcoholic, how come you're not an alcoholic? And he said, well, with my father as an alcoholic, how could I be an alcoholic? And you ask the other one, how come you're an alcoholic? Well, with my father as an alcoholic, how could I not be an alcoholic? Yeah. And so it's our perception of them, isn't it? Can we just dig into this, just go back a little more on this? Line 17. As the plant. I just love the metaphors are so clever. Actually, before I say that, we're talking about character.
Yeah.
And as you were talking, I was thinking we didn't mention this in the foreword. We normally mention at the beginning, but the 5 key areas. Can you just talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
The 5 key areas that you want to set goals for your life, because that will set up the next piece.
Yeah, I think what we want to do is not just certainly goals, but I think what we want to do is whenever we're entering into learning something, we want to look at 5 key areas of our life and kind of filter the thinking through them. And these would be areas of your life that you should have a goal in. These would be areas of your life that you should have a purpose statement in. These should be areas of your life that you would have a vision in. So you would have a purpose, a vision, a goal in each one of these 5 areas. And you would also want to inventory your level of awareness. And so these are in no special order. One is not more important than the other. The first is your spiritual life, right? Your spiritual. You should have a purpose for your spiritual walk, and you should have a goal for yourself spiritually, and you should have a vision for what you want your life to be like spiritually, and you should be seeking a new level of awareness spiritually, and so in that case, it would be an awareness of your oneness with your Creator. The second would be your primary love relationships. Mm-hmm. These would be with the people that you love, family and friends that you're deeply connected to and you love, and you should have a goal for that relationship and a vision for that relationship and a purpose for that relationship, and you should be operating at a certain level of awareness for expanding that relationship and bringing your whole self to that relationship. The next would be the expression of freedom in your life. This would be time and money.
Right.
How you express yourself. Are you free to express yourself in time and money? And certainly we should have, a vision and a purpose and a goal for our life with time and money. And we should have a level of awareness around money. The next would be just your own personal growth and development. And, fantastic for all of you. You're obviously, one of the people seriously, who are operating at a higher level of awareness.
In the minority, really.
You are, because look, you could be watching this video, trying to, gain one insight into your life to understand who you are and whose you are at just a higher level of awareness. Or you could be, binge watching Netflix eating a bag of Cheetos, not that there's anything wrong with Cheetos.
Or
Netflix. But certainly, certainly there's a different level of awareness of a person who's going to invest the time in their own personal growth. And lastly, the last area, Roddy, would be this area of how we treat, honor, maintain our body temple, right? Our physical body. So we should have a goal for our health. We should have a vision for our health, a purpose for our health, and we should have an awareness of our health. And so as we go through this book or each individual chapter or each principle, allow those 5 areas to serve as filters through which you think through. Right. And it's interesting because at different times in our life,
you're going to focus.
Yeah, those things become different. Like right now, I'm really focusing on on an area of my health right now that I'm focusing on.
Right.
And so it doesn't mean that I don't have financial goals. It doesn't mean that I don't have spiritual goals. It does, but I'm
needs a bit more effort than you've been giving it, maybe, or a bit more focus.
It needs a lot more focus. It needs more consideration. And I'm doing, I'm watching,
right.
I'm observing myself. I'm exercising a different level of discipline right now.
Yeah.
And it's requiring me to alter my thoughts.
Yeah.
And
that's an active process, isn't it? Is what I'm doing working? Okay, why is it not working? Where is it not working? What can I do to make it work better? That's the watching and controlling and
isn't it interesting in all that you just said? You said I. Because it really is
right.
And I.
Yeah. You're the one that needs to do it.
Yeah, we said in
who can I blame?
Yeah, we said in Think and Grow Rich that this is a you and you deal. Right? This is a you and you deal. So let's get to what you wanted. You were on page 17.
I wanted to say that character is at the root of all of those things. All of those areas, whichever direction you're going to grow, and you should grow in all of them. It's character, it's who you are inside that's going to determine.
It will be the driver, won't it?
Yeah, for all of them.
Yeah.
And also, if you're looking for help or looking for a mentor or looking for someone to coach you or help you, we always say go to someone that's got the results that you want to get. So if you're looking for financial help, then you want to go to someone who's got some financial success. If it's health, then someone that's got health success. But when you see someone whose life is kind of together, you can see that they've understand the principles of success, which are the same in all of those different areas, the fundamental principles, and they've been able to generalize it from one area to another. Then you know that they really understand the principles because they can apply it to the different areas of their life, which I think is a good guide.
Yeah, and their character. I just had an opportunity. I had an opportunity to go out. Andrew, who's our film guy here, he was with me. We went out to Andrew's right. He's right there. We went out to Tony Horton.
You'll hear him in a minute,
right? I mean, and Tony Horton, highly successful guy, right? He's the creator of P90X, and so really highly successful financially, and his character was just. You loved them. And just right, there was a level of integrity about him, and a level of authenticity, and a level of genuineness, and a level of humility, yet balanced with confidence. Right. He wasn't being humble in a rebellious way against his potential.
He was aware that he was.
Yeah, he was aware that he's good, and he's aware that he's talented, and he's aware that he's successful. And I think when you look at someone's life, why do people gravitate to Tony as a physical fitness trainer?
Because of that.
The character. Yeah. I mean, he's got, lots of people have a workout program, right?
Yeah.
Lots of people. But he's integrous. So we look at John Maxwell, our business partner. Roddy and I are both faculty members with the John Maxwell team, and we are business partners with John, and we serve with John. And there's lots of thought leaders. There's lots of people who teach leadership. But why is John 10 years in a row, Guru.com names him the #1 leadership.
Yeah.
He just won the Horatio Alger Award.
Yeah.
The Mother Teresa Luminary Award for Peace. These are things of character.
Right.
He's not being acknowledged for being
big-headed and boastful and
or writing the most books.
Right.
All at the end of the day, these are recognition of
character
of who he's been as he's created and achieved these levels of success.
Yeah.
And I think it's character is something that really matters. And I just think that if you're looking to grow your business, if you're looking to make money and you're looking to change your life financially, you're thinking that this isn't the book for you, that maybe this isn't a book about money. This is a book about money. This is certainly, if you want to grow your business, start right here with character.
Yeah.
Start right here with character, because the truth is one of the things that I realized when I had my commercial cleaning company, all of my competitors could buy the same vacuum cleaner. They could buy the same mop bucket and wringer. They could buy the same, go juice, whatever cleaning fluid they could do, right? They had access to the same client base. They had access to the same employment base. But what was different about my company was how I treated my people.
Right.
Right? And that was a character decision.
Yeah.
Right. It was a character was that, I wasn't, now I want to be, transparent. I had to grow to that level of maturity because when I first started my business, I wasn't there.
Yeah. Everyone does, I think, don't they? No one starts out with a seasoned character. It's through experience and failure and moving forwards that you gradually shape it.
Yeah, and hopefully you do. And hopefully if you get, in the right circle of people, they'll bring out those pieces for you.
Yeah.
And so for me, I really think the reason why I was successful in my commercial cleaning business is, when you look at employee turnover, it is perhaps one of the greatest expenses that a company has. When you lose a really good, talented person, my goodness, it's expensive to replace somebody. It's disturbing to the business flow, and in the cleaning business, the only industry that had a higher employee turnover rate was the fast food industry, like a McDonald's restaurant, where a 6-year-old kid works for 4 months and then quits and goes on to surf, right, or whatever it is. But in the cleaning business, there was huge turnover, and I was able, because I ran my company from a level of integrity, a level of respecting and honoring my employees. Not seeing them as because they were janitors, not seeing them as less than,
right?
Seeing them as respect and value, and
helping them grow. You used to do seminars for them, didn't you, with all this stuff?
We used to study this book, and what I wanted them to do was I wanted them to dream big, and I wanted to, and I realized that I was setting up for my employees an opportunity for them to have their own cleaning company within my company. They didn't have to quit my company to go someplace. Right. We could stay on this creative plane. And I had employees who worked for me for 15 years.
You're still in contact with, or still working with.
Vicky, who you know still works for me. Veronica, who runs with the John Maxwell team, who oversees our entire Spanish platform. I met Veronica when she was, I think, 15 years old and came from Argentina, and she couldn't speak a lick of English. And I kind of watched her grow up. Her and her husband, who met in my cleaning company, bought my home. Yeah. And we're friends for life, right? But that was all driven by character, yeah. And so you couldn't buy that in yellow page advertising, right? You couldn't buy that in the vacuum cleaner store. You couldn't buy that in, right? And so if you think that this book isn't a
business book or a wealth book,
you're missing it.
Yeah.
Because people don't quit companies. People quit people.
Right. That's so true, isn't it?
People quit people. And if you're a leader, if you're a business owner, if you're a manager, and your character isn't right, I'm just going to tell you, high performers aren't going to stay. High performers have almost a zero tolerance policy for people who aren't of character.
Yeah.
Right. And so there is a so again, when you think of how does character mold everything? It molds and shapes everything, doesn't it?
It really does.
It really does.
I think the reason that's one of the reasons why this is my favorite chapter, I think, is because of the importance of character.
Yeah.
I just want to go to this analogy here of the plant on line 17, because I think it's so clever.
Before you do it, I just, I know we're going to get to it, but also just listen to how beautiful and elegant it's written. Too,
exactly.
right? It's just, go ahead.
It's a great analogy.
It is.
It's very well written, and it describes, I think. Well, see what you think for yourself. Yeah. Line 17. As the plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every act of man springs from the hidden seeds of thought and could not have appeared without them. And then he says this is equally true, it applies equally to those acts that are spontaneous and unpremeditated as to those that are deliberately executed. And then he goes on line 23, act is the blossom of thought, and joy and suffering are its fruits. So just think of that analogy. So we got seeds, we got plants, we got blossom, and we got fruits. And he's talking about character being the complete sum of all of our thoughts. So character, we've really got to get, we know, persistence and resilience and courage and value, all of those things we think of as character. But we've got to think about the subconscious mind as being the garden where all of these things are grown, to take your point. If you haven't got a great character now, and no one's character is finished, is it?
Right.
Then you're going to get where you want to go from where you are. So you've got to, that's the garden where you've got to grow these things. And he's talking about using the analogy of plants. So as the plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every act of man springs from the hidden seeds of thought. So we've got thoughts dropping into the fertile soil of the subconscious and growing into, if they're seeds, they're growing into plants. What do the plants represent? Beliefs. We're beliefs are taking root in our subconscious. And then from these plants, he's saying act is the blossom of thought on line 23. So from our acts, then from our beliefs, then our acts, and then the results that we get from those, the joy and suffering, is the fruit from the blossom. Mm-hmm. So the blossom is our actions, and the results that we get is the fruits. So the plant springs from the seed, but then what springs from plants? More seeds, isn't it? So the seeds then proliferate because seeds come from plants, and so we end up with more and more same beliefs or similar beliefs growing in the fertile subconscious because it's the same kind.
Right.
And so that's how our kind of character is shaped, and that's why it needs to be changed and shaped into something new. We've got to take what's already there, and some of those plants we've got to remove because they're not going to remove themselves, or we've got to heavily prune at least. We've got to go right back and prune some of those beliefs, and some we need to create new ones in order to change our results. And it can't be any other way, and that's for things that we think are just spontaneous that we're doing are coming from those beliefs, and things that are deliberately executed. So it all comes from the character, those plants that are plants in the subconscious, and the acts come from those beliefs and more thoughts as well. So we're tapped into that level of thinking. Now we're just coming. Probably we should break this lesson soon and move on to the 7 levels of character, because it shows you this piece plays into that, because you get stuck in these layers of character where what you believe and the way you see the world influences your thinking, and that's why you end up staying there over and over and over again. And I think this just sums it up beautifully. Could it be better written? As the plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every act of man springs from the hidden seeds of thought. It's so powerful. I love it.
If I could just before we end this, because I think it's a compliment to what you shared. You talked about this idea of pruning,
right? And
pruning is a really critical process of growth, right? Because what you're pruning is that which is not perfect. And so in order to prune and to prune effectively, you have to have a model of what perfection is. So think of the botanist who is trying to grow the most beautiful rose. It first requires that she has or he has an image of what perfection is. And then what they must do is they have to look at what is. They have a mental image of what perfection is. So there's a vision that they've glorified in their mind, right? They've enthroned in their heart. It's an ideal. So they have this vision. Then they look at what is, and then they observe it. They watch it. And anything that is not perfect, it's not a match for that, or anything that could prevent the full expression of the perfection,
right,
gets snipped away.
Yeah.
And, that snipping away is a forever thing.
Right.
Once snipped.
Continually. Yeah.
It's snipped, and continually.
Yeah.
And when we make that cut away, what we expect then is new growth.
Right.
We expect then, we don't expect that when we prune that it's not going to grow again. We expect
it's going to burst probably into life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's going to blossom.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think this is a beautiful metaphor. And I think the other thing I just want to, if I could just
go ahead.
Is that all throughout the work that Roddy and I will teach in this course and in all of our courses, there are some fundamental things that we believe, and we believe that everything is created through a process of law, that there is no such thing as luck or chance. And so when he calls, when he looks at the word, we see on, what is that, line 20, the word spontaneous. We would look at the writing of Henry David Thoreau in his writing of Walden, where he says, if one advances confidently in the direction of their dream, endeavors to live the life that they've imagined, that they will meet with success. And he says that unexpected common hours. This is kind of the spontaneous, like on any given Tuesday. But all of this creation, the plant springing from, is all governed by law.
He says on line 32, doesn't he? Man is a growth by law and not a creation by artifice.
Yeah, right exactly there on page 20. Man is a growth by law. And so, the law that we're working with when we think of thought and character, you're working with all of the laws. But I think the law that we want to really understand here is the law of gender, because it doesn't happen immediately. And that's why there is such a disconnect, because we are so used to seeing kind of cause and effect. If I let this go, this happens, the behavior, and then this happens. When we're dealing with character, it is something that happens over time.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why he says you're the complete sum. It's the complete sum. And that's why he says that every one of these things matter.
Yeah.
Right? Over time, over the course of our life. And isn't it true that our character is being molded all through our life?
Right.
It's all through our life. There's times where, your character for integrity, your character for honesty, your character for dependability is given opportunity.
Right.
Is being tested and challenged at different levels all the time.
Yeah.
And then being molded.
Another reason why I like this analogy is because it's easy to understand the law of gender at work with seeds and plants, isn't it? We know that you plant the seed and you can calculate almost to the day when it's going to, sprout and turn into a plant. But
good point.
So it's easy to understand with plants, but much more difficult with character and thinking, and then results in the physical world, isn't it? But certainly,
because we don't see it immediately, do we?
And there's a lot more forces at work, but it's still a law.
And we don't see the fertile ground, right?
Yeah.
It's in our mind, right?
Yeah. We're not aware of it.
Yeah, we're not aware of it.
Yeah.
So, well, this is I think we did really well for the first piece of this trip. There's so much here. I think we probably only looked at 5 sentences, and we've talked for an hour, and we could talk for more.
But tomorrow maybe we'll go on to the 7 levels of character, and then
tomorrow, if you want to do, if you want to just kind of get a little bit ahead, you can just go to page 24 and familiarize yourself. And I really do encourage you to pick up the workbook. It'll really help you. And it'll give you places to keep all of your notes. So we'll pick this up tomorrow.
Yeah, bring someone with you tomorrow. It'll be a great lesson for your colleagues and family, friends.
And this lesson is good for 48 hours before it goes dark. And so should we read from Vision and Ideals, right?
We should do that, yeah. Every lesson, I love it.
The vision that we glorify in our mind, the ideal that we enthrone in our heart, this we build our life by, and this we become. What page is that on the book?
Page 113, line 729.
Yeah, it is so good. The vision we glorify in our mind, the ideal we enthrone in our heart, this we build our life by, and this we become. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Be well.
Bye-bye. God bless.